Did you know that The Lion King broke records to become the highest grossing animated film? It held this achievement for 9 years. It was the highest grossing film of 1994, showing the success of Disney in the 90s. It was releasing hit after hit. And did you know that the artists on The Lion King were considered the B team, as everyone in the A team was working on Pocahontas? This created a fire in the young animators who wanted to prove how talented they were. Find out how this young team created one of the best Disney films ever made in 100 Facts about The Lion King. The Lion King is the 32nd Disney animated feature film. It was released in June 1994. Disney was having a huge success during this time period. The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin were huge hits. Jeffrey Katzenberg was the head of the films division at Disney. He was responsible for turning many of the Disney films into musicals, and they had really found their groove in releasing films. Production began in 1991, at the same time as Pocahontas. The initial director was George Scribner, who was the director of Oliver and Company. He was later joined by Roger Allers, who was the lead storyman on Beauty and the Beast. Originally, the directors wanted a documentary feel to the project. They wanted something rooted in real life to show the beauty of the animal kingdom.
I remember having seen a documentary called The Eternal Enemies, Lions and Hyenas. I mean, it was so incredibly powerful and dramatic and intense. And I thought, wow, if this movie could capture, a tenth of the power of this documentary, then it would be terrific.
A group of artists travelled to Kenya to study the wildlife and see the animals in their natural habitat.
It sounds silly, but it's such a stunning revelation to actually just see the animals in their natural habitat. And to see prey and predator mingled all over was fantastic.
On a daily basis, it was life-affirming because everything was very raw. The balance of life and death was very in your face all the time.
Originally, there was no music in The Lion King to go for a more realistic tone. Scribner's intention was making a documentary-like film more focused on natural aspects. As the production continued, it was decided to turn the film into a musical to mirror the success Disney had with its other recent films. Scribner decided to leave the project as he clashed with the producers on their decision to turn the film into a musical. Rob Bancroft replaced Scribner, and Don Hahn joined the production as the producer. Hahn found the script unfocused and lacking a clear theme. They decided the theme should be based around leaving childhood and facing up to the realities of the world.
Life is about balances, and it's the contrast of it all makes it work. The sun only shines in contrast to the darkness. So the brighter you want the movie to be, the more celebratory and joyous you want it to be, you have to, at times, go into the darkness and show that side of the movie. You had to deal with the bottom rung of life in terms of loss to be able to celebrate the last scene of all the gain that this character goes through by experiencing the full spectrum of life, from joy to sorrow and from hopes to hurts, and all that spectrum is what we try to follow and lay out for the audience.
So it sort of goes beyond the quotation marks of storytelling, and it speaks to experience. It doesn't matter how bad things are or can get, you can get through it, and the human spirit can rise above everything.
As I mentioned, there were 2 animated features in production at the time, The Lion King and Pocahontas. And Jeffrey Katzenberg made it very clear which his favourite project was.
We'd been working on it for a couple of months, and then Jeffrey calls a breakfast meeting. And in the meeting, we have the whole crew from Pocahontas and Lion King. And Jeffrey says, Pocahontas is a home run. It's West Side Story. It's Romeo and Juliet with American Indians. It's a hit. It's got hit written all over it. Lion King, on the other hand, is kind of an experiment. We don't really know if anybody's going to really want to see it. And after that meeting, absolutely no one wanted to work on Lion King.
No one had any faith in that movie. Which is actually, if there's a lesson in The Lion King, it's nobody knows nothing.
It was difficult to get artists to work on The Lion King. Everyone thought that Pocahontas would be the most prestigious and successful of the 2. Because of this, most of the leading animators on The Lion King were doing their first major work supervising a character, or were working on the film because they had an interest in animated animals. This created an attitude for the young team of animators that in return created excellence.
And throughout Lion King, there were numbers of people that wanted to get off the movie and get on to Pocahontas because that was perceived as that was going to be the great movie, and we were the B team.
It was the B picture. It was sort of the one that the A players weren't working on.
Really, I think everybody sort of felt like they would rather work on the picture that was the underdog.
And then, of course, then you sort of infuse that with the ragtag feeling like, okay, so what if we're the B team? We're just going to rally and do a great job. We'll show them.
The Lion King production had a stigma of being the B team, but they used this to their advantage. This young group of animators wanted to prove how good they were. This pushed the animators to do some incredible work.
I mean, truly, a lot of the animators were always going to be under someone else on the bigger pictures. I mean, and nothing against the top people, because they're fantastic, but it was just an opportunity for some people to shine.
I do remember that we were really struggling on Lion King, trying to find a story, because in some ways you look at the story and you think it's so new. Nothing about it is familiar. It's completely untried, untested. So you really wonder if alternately, one day you think this is the greatest movie ever, and then the next day you're like, what are we doing?
Tony Fusel was the supervising animator on Mufasa. He wanted to exaggerate the shapes of the lion. He wanted to show how powerful Mufasa was as the king of the pride.
Well, Mufasa, in the story, he had to feel like the strongest lion in the pride. When I was looking at Joseph, I was thinking, well, I've got to get this type of strength into these drawings. In the drawing, I would exaggerate some certain anatomical things, like the shoulders and the arms and the size of the head and things, more than you would see in nature, because that would help to sort of sell the difference between him and the other lions.
Mark Henn was the supervising animator for young Simba. He wanted to use the voice actor as inspiration. This was often done to get the best acting in the animation. Henn was a legendary animator at Disney, and he had already been the supervising animator for Ariel, Belle, and Jasmine.
We did a lot of research. Actually, we had Jim Fowler down from the Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom show, and he brought in lion cubs and a full-grown lion to the studio, and we actually got to observe these lions playing, and actually afterwards got to touch and pet them. So it was a combination of you know, the actual animal, the lion, and its unique qualities, coupled with some of the nice appeal and the character that I saw in Jonathan, that I really started mixing the two together, as well as then putting my own ideas and of, you know, the acting and the performance into the character, and it all kind of comes out as Simba, hopefully.
Ruben Aquino was the supervising animator of adult Simba. He had a difficult task, as adult Simba needed to look similar to Mufasa, as they were family, but different enough that viewers would be able to tell the difference. As well as that, adult Simba needed to look similar to young Simba.
Early on, the directors liked the way Mufasa was turning out. We wanted to make sure that Simba looked like, when he grows older, he could look kind of like Mufasa, not as filled out, but still graphically of the same family. And at the same time, we wanted to make sure that the adult Simba looked like an adult version of Cub Simba.
Andreas Deja was the supervising animator on Scar. Andreas Deja was excellent at animating Disney villains. He had already been the supervising animator for Gaston and Jafar, and was now tackling his third Disney villain. I think his work on this film would be his finest work yet. He used the inspiration by the voice actor Jeremy Irons for the animation. He would use a lot of the acting from the recording sessions and transfer that to the animation.
To me as an animator, I really feel like an actor. Even though we work with a pencil, we don't put ourselves in front of the screen. But it really is acting. People ask me sometimes, oh, you have to do all these drawings and aren't you getting bored? And it really, we don't think about drawing, we think about acting.
He basically says, idiots, I will be king.
Andreas Deja was keen to work on this project as it was a good challenge to animate the animals. I am still in awe of Andreas Deja's work every time I watch it. He had to really work hard to communicate the acting of Scar. Communicating the acting with an animal is a lot more difficult than animating a human, as we're used to seeing human emotions.
I'm trying to figure out who this character is and what he's going through emotionally at this point. And of course I work for a director. We've got the voice, you know, Jeremy Irons does his part, but then I come in and I really put a performance on the screen.
Precisely.
And for a character like Scar, it is an animal. So you have to bring animal qualities, a real lion walk and how a lion moves and their mannerisms. Plus, you have to humanize that and have real facial expressions that a human has. So it's a funny combination of things. It's different than animating a human character. And I've had experience with humans mostly, you know, even though I've done characters like Roger Rabbit or Mickey Mouse, but they are human characters. They walk on two legs, and the actions and acting is very humanized. This was supposed to be different. These were real lions who walk with lion weight and have lion mannerisms, and yet you still are supposed to portray a humanized personality. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you don't have hands to work with. Hands are so important to express a character's emotions. They say so much, and you don't have that with these characters. So what do? Well, you concentrate much more on the overall body attitude. You know, is the character sad, or is it suspicious? Also the angle of the head, the face, you know, says something.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
As I said earlier in the video, Andreas was a master at Disney villains by this point. He really understood what made a great villain. He knew that villains cannot be one-dimensional. Just being evil isn't interesting. An animator needs to know who their character is, inside and out.
To me, a villain always only works if he's also interesting. That's more tough. You can have him beat people around and have him call people names and that sort of thing, and just show him doing evil things, but he has to be an interesting person, an interesting character. So that's what you're really working at, is like, who is this guy? You know, how does he feel about himself and the other characters? What are his likes and dislikes? What he would have for breakfast? You're trying to come up with a very whole personality. You build mannerisms. You know, it's much more beyond than what you see on the screen in the way we analyze the character. So I always thought that a villain should be very, very interesting.
You're so weird.
You have no idea.
Fun extra fact about Scar. Alex Williams, the son of Richard Williams, who wrote the book The Animators Survival Kit, was an animator on Scar, working underneath Andreas Deja. Alex Williams animated this scene. He is now the head of animation at Escape Studios, where I studied animation. I was very lucky to work on 2 films at Escape Studios, and I'm currently employed with them, which I'm very happy about. James Baxter was the legendary animator behind the ballroom scene in Beauty and the Beast. He was the supervising animator on Rafiki. I love the character of Rafiki. He is the wise mentor archetype that we have seen many times in films like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars or Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. He is there to teach our hero an important lesson.
I came onto the film quite late. I already had a whole mass of supporting stuff that was already done for me. But I basically came in and finalized the design for the character.
You follow old Rafiki, he knows the way.
That basically came out of a wish to try and make a mandrill, which is what he is. He's actually a sort of mutated mandrill. He's a mandrill with a tail. They don't really have tails, but he has a tail. They're really, really odd-looking animals, and if you just draw them straight, people don't believe you. So to try and make that grotesque face look believable was like the first challenge, I think, for me. To try and get these strange blue stripes working in the design, and so they could actually move when he talked, and they would actually appear appealing and not so grotesque, even though he has to appear slightly crazy. They have this sort of strange posture, which we don't have because we're kind of used to it. So that was something that I thought could really make him still look like a monkey, even though he was acting like a person.
Tony Bancroft animated Pumbaa. He would go on to direct Mulan, and now has a famous animation podcast with his brother Tom Bancroft. If you haven't checked it out yet, I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of animation. It's called the Bancroft Brothers Podcast. This was Tony's first chance to prove his skills by animating the now famous Warthog. Tony Bancroft's animation partner was Mike Surrey, who animated Timon. They had to work together to pull off the animation.
Pumbaa's kind of a friendly guy that really, they need each other. Pumbaa needs Timon, Timon needs Pumbaa.
Don't worry, buddy, I'm here for you. Everything's gonna be okay.
They're buddies, they're pals. They're kind of like Lenny and George from Grapes of Wrath, you know, the big dumb guy and the little guy that's always in charge and tells him what to do. Pumbaa has the physicality to stick up for Timon, and Timon has the brains to...
Yeah, he's the one who thinks he knows where everything's going to be, and he just, oh, no, you just listen to me, Pumbaa. I'll tell you what it's going to be like.
Jeez, it's a lion! Run, Pumbaa, move it! Hey, Timon, it's just a little lion.
And Pumbaa has his moments where he comes across a lot more intelligent than you think he'll be.
I always thought they were balls of gas burning billions of miles away.
We work very closely together since we share a room. You know, I'll start a scene maybe because Pumbaa is such a large shape in the scene, and he's really kind of a walking stage for Timon since Timon's always on top of Pumbaa's nose or on his back or something like that. I'll start off by animating Pumbaa, but I'll always show Mike before I start. We'll act it out for each other.
It's usually Tony first, then me, and sometimes it goes back and forth, because if there's a lot of interplay with them physically, then a lot of times it'll just mean, you know, I'll do my little bit, give it to him, he'll do it, and then give it back. And
because it's kind of difficult when you're doing comedy, especially with two characters working closely together. You know, just like any comedian duo, I'm sure they have to work out a choreography, a routine, you know, if you will, to a scene. That's what we have to do, only we're doing it 24 frames per second.
The music in this film was worked on by Elton John and Tim Rice. Originally, the song Can You Feel the Love Tonight was going to be sung by Timon and Pumbaa. This was not what Elton John envisioned, as he saw it as a love ballad, like the title song in Beauty and the Beast. The art director of this film was Andy Gaskill. Originally, the film's background was going to use African art as inspiration, but after experiencing the beauty of Africa, the artist wanted to capture Africa in all its atmosphere, so it felt like he was in the wildlife.
We've constantly tried to capture the vastness of it. We've tried to inject elements that are a little more subliminal, like sound, for instance. The sound of wind. Simply the effect of having a character standing on the open savanna and having the wind blow his mane, you know, and you can't see the wind, obviously, but you feel it because you see his mane reacting to it, or you see the grass on the savanna just sort of being blown gently.
However, they decided to go big with the art direction in one particular sequence, and I think you know which sequence I'm going to talk about, which is I Just Can't Wait to Be King. This sequence has such an amazing colour palette. It is bright, it's colourful, and it is one of the most beautiful sequences in any Disney film. When the artists first screened the film, they knew they had something. It would either be a huge success or a massive failure.
In retrospect, people go back and analyze the movie and say, oh, how clever they wove in these influences and those influences. If you really saw how the movie was put together, you would say, oh my God, you mean they did it this way?
We made each other laugh so much during all these story sessions and script sessions. There was a great mixture of people in the room that we could bounce off of each other and write together and create together.
We would be rushing into a recording session and shoveling pizza into our mouths and sitting in the lobby going, we've got to come up with something funny for Nathan to say. And it's done very spontaneously, and it's like playing jazz. And the ideas start to come together and inspire other ideas, and that turns into the movie.
All works of art, all great works of art always are from a process, and they're not always self-evident while you're doing them.
The film had a very interesting marketing technique. For the first trailer, Disney chose to feature a single scene and show the entire opening sequence of The Lion King. This is because the opening came off so strong and ended with such a bang. The trailer was a great success, as everyone was now excited to see the latest Disney movie. There has been an interesting pattern in my last few videos. The Little Mermaid broke the record for the highest grossing animation film. The Beauty and the Beast then broke that record. Then Aladdin beats that record. And now you guessed it, The Lion King beat that record. But this time, The Lion King would hold that record for a long time. It was the highest grossing film in 1994, beating other very successful films. Overall, it would earn $968 million. It would hold the title of the highest grossing animated film for 9 years, until 2003 with Finding Nemo. To this day, it's still the highest grossing 2D animated film, and I don't think it will ever be beaten. Upon release, The Lion King was accompanied by an extensive marketing campaign, which included ties with Burger King, Mattel, Kodak, Nestle, and various merchandise, accounting 186 licensed products. In 1994, Disney earned approximately $1 billion worth of products based on the film. The film would go on to win 2 Academy Awards for Best Original Score and Best Original Song with Can You Feel the Love Tonight. The film has left an incredible legacy with sequels, television series, theme park attractions, and even a Broadway musical that has become one of the most successful Broadway musicals of all time. There is so much to talk about with the pop culture effect of The Lion King, but I will save that for another video. If you are new to the channel, I am doing 100 facts about every Disney animated film from the beginning all the way up to the present day. So subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I release new videos. Next week is 100 facts about Pocahontas. I'll see you there.